Jedith put it in A tier, and then chat fucking rioted. All right, so where would you put it as of right now?
I'm going to be humble. I'm going to put it on A.
Okay. Like high A?
I know people disagree.
All right. We're just going to go back to all of the pre-race, pre-season, pre-expansion tier lists about what would be good in the beginning of Season 1. The idea for this is not actually for the race. Like, I think people over-analyze what is brought for the race, and sometimes it's, like, very specific, like, especially around buff classes. Like, people will be like, oh, no one brought a Ret Paladin, so it's F tier. But the only reason we didn't bring a Ret Paladin is you only wanted one Paladin buff this raid, not multiple, because of their power levels, and Holy Paladin is just way more efficient than Ret. But, like, if you look at Ret's actually good. Like, Ret's doing good damage. This tier list is more for, like, the general population of the game. And then obviously separated in between rating and Mythic Plus. And we're going to rank the tier lists based on chat's opinion and their accuracy. We are going to rate the tier lists on a tier list. And then also briefly talk about all the classes kind of while we're doing this. So first of all, let's get out trusty paint and let's make some tiers. Swamp S. Let's start with my own tier list. So this one, I'm not going to be overly critical of for one reason. So as opposed to every other tier list I'm looking at today, my tier list was a meme. Like, it was intentionally not designed to be accurate. I'll actually read you the disclaimer at the beginning. I'll let you hear the introduction at the beginning here.
Hey guys, surprise rare
It's me.
intro. I think the content today is pretty good, but I know a lot of people are going to fixate on the tier list part of it. Tier lists are memes. They are almost never accurate, even when people do them seriously, and this is by default a meme tier list. It's a bunch of people all ranking their things individually against each other with different ideas of what S tier and F tier mean and things like that. So do not take this list seriously whatsoever, and even if it was completely accurate, it would be outdated instantly, and it's not accurate. So please just pay attention to the tier list. What I really love about today is I got a group of people that really know what they're talking about with these classes, and they're giving you an idea of where the class came from, where it's at now, what it was good at and bad at then, what got addressed in the talent system for people who are just coming back, and just a kind of general overview of all the classes in the game. And then at the end, they're all just going to give their random...
What do you mean same glasses? Of course it's the same glasses.
rank on a tier list of where they would put their class. Do not put that much weight in that. The content is what they're saying about the class. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, so as you see, I did not give any input as to where anything would be. Chat was rioting about the Havoc DH1, and we'll get to that in a second, and they voted to change the rank to something higher, which will definitely be an interesting point of discussion. But what I don't want to be about my tier list specifically is super, like, aggro about where they ranked something, because this was not one person ranking all of them seriously. This was having them all arbitrarily rank them against each other with people having different ideas of where the tiers were. So, like, the point of this video and what it did, I think it did really well, was it allowed people who knew what they were talking about to have some time to talk about the specs. And that was great about it. So I'm not going to grill these people for randomly, like, ranking them in a different spot when, like, they were... The whole point of this was not for them to do that well, so... And it would make no sense for one of them to come on my stream to talk about the class and then randomly get roasted a month later because their random meme tier ranking was wrong, so... All right, so let's see where it ended up. So keep in mind, this was combined Raid and Mythic Plus. Almost every other one we were looking at this expansion is actually going to be separate for Mythic Plus and for Raid. So this is both of them combined, so let's kind of get into it. All right, so at the top tier, we have Guardian Druid and Havoc Demon Hunter. I think having Guardian Druid and Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster was definitely incorrect. I think this was right after Guardian got a 50% buff and people were like cranking on it in Mythic Plus, and they still do pretty good damage in Mythic Plus. But having Prot Warrior not be above this is insane, right? So, like, probably the first inaccuracy here is Prot not being top and Guardian not being a little bit lower than that, especially in, like, Raid. I feel like Raid, this is pretty much accurate if you just swap Prot and Guardian. I think Guardian's a fine Raid tank. Vengeance is a fine Raid tank. Blood DK is a fine Raid tank. Prot Paladin probably being a tier below is okay, but it's still good. Like, all the tank balance right now is pretty solid. Brewmaster is even, I think, fine in A. I think people underrate Brewmaster even now currently. So I think that initially is wrong. Our Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster tier is wrong. Question, should any class currently in the game, should it be Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster? Should that even exist? Like, is there any class right now that you guys feel like is just that good? You think rogues as a whole like all 3 specs. Yeah, but you have to kind of rank every spec. I would say maybe Outlaw and Sub are deep dick because they can do insane AoE and single target at the same time, where Assassination kind of can't do the other one, and that just makes it not as good. But if you needed pure single target, Assassination is best. So yeah, I think that that's probably that. You guys think Prot Warrior? You guys think Prot Warrior is deep dick? I think you're probably right. What about healers? Do you guys think Preservation Evoker is deep? Preservation Evoker is like the best dungeon healer, or I think Resto Druid's like close. Preservation Evoker is the best raid healer. And also, I think Preservation Evoker has like just insane design. Like actually fucking cracked design. Let's see, this has Unholy Decay and S. That definitely, this was made before those buffs, so this was turbo wrong. Let's see, Resto Druid being S is actually pretty accurate. Like if you look at just healing in the entire zone for Mythic on all bosses, 95th percentile, Resto and Evoker are cranking every healer class, and these are also the 2 best Mythic Plus healers. So I think Preservation Evoker probably takes the edge on Resto Druid because it provides utility unique to the raid that is necessary on the hardest boss by far. And they're a more damage dungeon healer, but I would just say that's probably accurate. I would say, like, if you were to objectively rank them, it would be that. Let's look in the A tier. So in the A tier, we had Feral Druid, Windwalker, Holy Pally, Devastation Evoker in A tier. Like, that's definitely wrong, right? Like, Devastation Evoker is not an A tier class. It suffers from a lot more than that. Disc is always super hard to rank. Like, Disc is not a class where it makes a lot of sense to look at them on healing meters and, like, healing statistics because, like, they do things that other classes don't. Like, I still think running a Disc on the last boss was good. Your alternative is running a Shadow Priest, so it's like, I don't know. For Priest, for me, it's hard for me to rank them because they have 2 different choices of spec, and they're, like, required for a raid buff. I don't know if it would be A. I think having Disc in A is probably wrong, though. You're probably right. And then Frost Mage, probably lower than A. Mistweaver, probably lower than A. Although, certainly doing fine healing. Like, the healing right now isn't too unbalanced. Resto Shaman is actually low, right? So, Resto Shaman, for whatever reason, is, like, a clear step above the rest of them. But they don't have a raid buff, which that matters. But, like, people were insanely down bad on Resto Druid going to this expansion. They're 3rd in HPS right now. And they probably bring as much or more utility than any other class. Like, something that people don't realize about Resto is in the past they had to choose between bringing Ancestral Vigor or Ankh Totem, and now they bring both, and they're not getting cranked on an HPS. And they bring, like, Spirit Link and shit. Demo is probably still A. I think some people would argue that, like, Warlock is worse than this. I think Demo is, like, a strong A. Closer to S than A, actually. The reason that people are down on Demo is because it's just not the best class in the game by far, like it has been for like every single patch for like 2 years or something. Or a Warlock spec is the best. I think Demo is a solid A, is a good class. Also currently a very good PI, or the best PI. Also, is Fury Warrior A tier? Like, let's look pure single. Fury's like pretty low. Fury's a good Razageth class. They're a good ad killer on Broodkeeper. They're a good ad killer on Dathia. Like, the hard bosses in this raid is like Dathia and Razageth. Kurog and Broodkeeper aren't hard. They're just eye level checks. Like, once you just have gear, these bosses just instantly die. They're not mechanically difficult. Even after you have gear, Dathia is challenging. I bet Kurog was harder for us than Dathia. But I bet now that you have gear, I would bet most guilds would agree that Dathia is actually harder than Kurog because Kurog is immediately just automatically nerfed by you having eye level. On Mythic, same thing with Broodkeeper. Broodkeeper is probably like a 20 to 30 pull boss now with gear. So it's basically Dathia and Razageth, and Fury Warrior and Dathia. Razageth and Dathia are both good with Fury. I would say Fury being A is actually fine. That actually works itself out. And then that's in raid. What about dungeons? Fury Warrior, I'm assuming, is good in dungeons. I have not played with on this expansion yet, but Fury Warrior has always been like a solid Mythic Plus class, so I assume they're still solid. Ellie Shaman being B. Man. It should probably be lower. I wish it was good. It's just, it's good. It is good. It's just, it just suffers from not being able to AoE and single target. It has to do one or the other. And I just think any class in that position, it's just, you're in such a weird spot. BM being B is wrong. I think BM got buffed after this. I know MM definitely did. BM is hard carried by the bow. I don't think the full power of the bow was known when this tier list was being made, like if it was properly being simmed or if the item was done being made, because that massively changes their value. I think BM would be a B tier class without the bow. Don't even look at the MM ranking. Like, we'll get to the swamp tier in a second, but like MM 100p got buffed by like a lot. And plus the bow knowledge, I feel like that's not really fair. Like, this was literally, it was just simply buffed 2 to 3 times after this was made. So Sub Rogue is way higher than B. Moonkin is definitely higher than B. Like, Moonkin carries multiple hard fights this tier. They're definitely not like top tier single target at the moment, I don't believe. Right? They're like, I mean, well, the single target balance right now isn't terrible in general, but like that also could be a kill time diffy. 535. So like, this is like peak down bad kill time for Moonkin. I don't know if that's like a fast kill or a slow kill. We had a buyer in our raid. We had Young Money Larry the Lob. We had young Larry, so like it probably would have died faster with 20 people. But Arms Warrior, I feel like B is fine. They do really, really good single target and really, really good execute, but they're so talent fucked to do both. For example, on our actual kill of Razagath, look at what Riku did in the last phase. Let me just show P3. Like, Riku beat the absolute shit out of the boss, but like his overall damage on the encounter, Arms was a late swap, but he had to play Arms late because like everyone else was supporting him, right? Like, we were basically hard carrying. He's literally lowest DPS, but he was great boss damage. So like, I feel like Arms can't really get much higher of a ranking because it needs other classes to support it for it to do what it does best. And like, other classes can just do both. So let's see. That's probably fine. Enhance was ranked B. I think this is solidly wrong. Enhance is fucking crazy good. Like, crazy fucking good. Enhance is probably, I mean, Enhance is S or Deep Dick for sure. It's S or Deep Dick. It's above A. It just does it. Enhance does insane single target. It does insane cleave with very few talents. It has utility that is necessary in a raid comp. It's really good in Mythic Plus. I think right now they're actually BIS for Mythic Plus damage. Like, here's my anticipation of what's going to happen in Mythic Plus this patch is I think Enhance is actually going to be top 3 in damage in Mythic Plus. However, I don't think they'll be brought to the highest keys. Like, when people start really pushing. Like, right now, guys, we're still like 10 eye levels less than what we're going to be in this patch, by the way. People are going to be 424 eye level this patch. So, like, you have not seen the high keys even be attempted yet. I think Enhance might have trouble living compared to other meta DPS specs. However, I think the best players will usually figure that out. Like, the best players will usually find a way to make the best damage class work. So definitely keep an eye on Enhance there, and they're absolutely cracked in raid. Holy Priest being B sounds accurate. All right, let's go to C tier. I think Resto Shaman is better than C tier, at least in raids. How is Resto Shaman in dungeon? Like, obviously, Resto Druid and Preservation Evoker hard dunk everything else. But like, in raid Resto's good. It feels terrible. No, like, I don't know, man. I feel like none of the good players are playing them, so I don't know if people really know how strong or bad they are. Yeah, it's probably not that bad. I would say Resto Shaman would move up some. Shadow Priest has been buffed, I think, 3 times since this ranking. I'd say Shadow Priest, I don't know what logs say right now. Well, I guess logs are not looking good for Terras, so single target, but they also have to add like a certain amount of damage to them for PI. It's pretty good in keys. I think they're a really good Razagath spec, actually, if they could stay on the platform. Like, if you have an Evoker simping for a Shadow Priest somehow, which is kind of weird because almost every guild has a disc and a Holy Paladin. If you have the ability to keep a Shadow Priest on the platform, I think they would be really good damage-wise on Razagath, like really good. I would argue that they would be actually high B right now with the potential to get better. Survival, I don't know if anyone knows. What the fuck is Survival Hunter? I don't know anything about this class. On Primal Council, stacked AoE, they're the worst class in the game. On Dathia Mythic, they're never been played. There's not a single log. On Kurog, there's probably not a single log. So that like kind of skews shit though, right? Because like, for example, Fire Mage wasn't doing that good in the raid until like people started getting done with progression, and now they're playing Fire Mage a few weeks later. And now that the better players are playing fire, fire's blasting. So I don't know if it's the best example of survival. Survival's probably incomplete. I don't think we have the ability to rank survival hunter at the moment. Does survival suffer from the issue that other specs deal with, where they can do really good single target, but their cleave build's totally different, so they suck? Yes, I don't know because I haven't seen one. Okay, thank you. Very good information. All right, in the D tier, Affliction Warlock and Arcane Magus. Affliction is probably still a strong D. Affliction has the benefit in mass AoE to do unholy DK type damage in mass AoE, but then they do actually 0 single target. I think D is probably accurate, I think, just in general. And before we get into Arcane Mage, which is pretty funny, Destro Warlock was in B. I think that's also lower than this. Destro's like pretty good 2-target. Currently, if you look at Sims, it like Sims higher than Demo, apparently. And it did before the raid, and we couldn't figure out why. But it's just really immobile, and Demo is less immobile, so it just feels way worse to play. It's probably like C or B at best. And then we have Arcane Mage in D tier. So if you notice during this, let me see when he said it.
It is essentially the exact same spec. You still have Arcane Harmony. You still have your Kyrian ability. They changed the major cooldown. Like, it's Arcane Surge now, but it's like pretty much the same thing. It's still just a button that you press before Touch of the Magi in your other abilities. Like, it's still the same spec. It's going to be a weird spec to put on the tier list because it doesn't have great AoE. It has good cleave, especially if you can make use of like the 45-second burst cooldowns. I could see it maybe being like really good on a fight like Broodmother, but it doesn't do that damage all the time, so it's really hard to place. This is probably the weakest of the 3 mage specs in my opinion, so I'd probably put it in like C or D tier. We don't have a spec in D tier. Let's put it in D tier. I think that's a good place to put it. General
Look at my face.
Mage utility across the board is good. I covered the 3 specs, but it didn't cover like basic talent tree, right?
So yeah, Arcane was really good. At this time, like no PI on any class. We had Arcane, like our pre-raid Sims of just like pure single target. It was like Arcane Mage is at like 70k or 69k. Enhance was at like 69k. Assassination Rogue was at 68. And then other rogue specs were like just under that. And then Ellie Shaman and BM Hunter with the bow were like under that. And then it was just like all of those classes were like 10% ahead of the next class. It was kind of insane. Like in pure single, of course. So we were like really high on Arcane. They nerfed and buffed and changed a few classes since the last time we did that because they took beta down. But Ellie slap single target. Ellie's a very good single target class. Yeah, it just doesn't... Like the thing is, like I showed you this on Razageth, right? Like you can have players that just do single target. Like even though Riku was like the bottom of our DPS meter on this fight, he helped kill the boss insane because if you just look at boss damage, like it did insane, but he had to be supported by people that did the necessary AoE and cleave to allow him to do that. You didn't even need to have an arms warrior do this, by the way. You could have kept a fury warrior and had a rogue go assassination. You could have brought in a BM hunter for an enhanced shaman. It's important to understand what needs to be supported to be allowed to work. Yeah, or unholy full single target. Very true. That would also be a very good choice. I'm pretty sure once people start getting and killing Razageth, unholy pure single target is going to be very, very good for killing that fight. However, I think Frost DK will be much better at progressing it. I think Frost DK just helps you get through the first intermission, and Unholy just doesn't. Unholy sucks in the first intermission. So Ret was put in Swamp Ass tier. I don't think Ret got changed. I don't think Ret got changed after this was posted. I want to say I think Ret doesn't belong here at all. I think Ret is like perfectly fine. Again, I think people overrate the Race World First stuff. Like Ret is always going to be weird for the race because they're balanced around Ret aura and they can't play the raid cooldown Devotion aura. And then Holy Paladins also just have aura mastery and summer. So by bringing a different class, you just gain a raid, an offensive and a defensive raid cooldown. So it's just like, there's no debate as to what is the best Paladin buff. So because of that, Rets aren't really considered. But if you're just a regular player, even a cutting edge player playing Ret Paladin, the class is really good. You just have to play 2 Paladins really to have it really make a lot of sense. I don't know. I think for the majority of the community, I don't know where you guys would put Ret, but like I think Ret is like fucking solid. I think it's a good Mythic Plus class. It's pretty good on like every hard raid fight. I don't know. I think Ret is probably B or A, maybe A, right? Like A minus, maybe like low A, high B, something like that. If you were to combine both. Oh yeah, good point though. It does have really weak defenses. That is a good point. Very good point. Oh, hi girl. Lily, you are so needy. All right, so where would we rate? Because we have to rate it like everything else. Like this wasn't a meme tier list, or this was not made with the intention of being accurate, but we're going to rate it nonetheless. So let me just take a picture of myself here, and then we'll put it on the old thing. Chat, where do you guys think my tier list ranks in terms of accuracy? I'm thinking it's like bare minimum C, or bare like it can't go above like C or B. There was a lot of stuff that was wrong, even though it wasn't really intended to. Yeah, next thing C. I'm seeing a lot of C's in chat. SA. You think it's swamp ass? No fucking shot, man. I feel like it can't be swamp ass just by default because the point of it wasn't to be right. Let's say I look at another tier list today and they got just as many things wrong, but their tier list was actually intended to inform people as to what was good or bad. I think that's swamp ass because their intention of it was to actually tell people what's good, and they were wrong, and this one is just a meme. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about Demon Hunter, by the way. We didn't even talk about Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter on this list, Judith put it in A tier, and then chat fucking rioted.
All right, so where would you put it as of right now?
I'm going to be humble. I'm going to put it on A.
Okay. Like high A?
I know people disagree. But this is a meme tier list, right?
It is a meme tier list. Yeah, okay.
And said that it should be in Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster. He was more right, I think, than you all were. Like, Havoc DH is good. It's a great Mythic Plus class. It's a good raid class. Here's why you guys thought DH was so good. It's because you guys didn't watch high-level raid testing. You weren't paying attention to how good DH was in raid, because all you were looking at was every single top streamer was just doing Mythic Plus, and they were unbelievably broken in Mythic Plus. So, like, everyone was basing this off of streamed Mythic Plus beta. It got nerfed twice, but they were not big nerfs at all. So, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess they technically did get nerfed, but, like, even if it went live from this tier list, they would not have been Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster, in my opinion. They got the big nerf before this happened. Okay, I'll let you guys vote. You guys can vote Swamp Ass. I don't care. It is up to the chat. This is a democracy. Looking like it's a pretty close tie between C and B, but C is the winner. Okay, so it's a high C. All right, moving on. This is the Wowhead Raid DPS tier list by Dratnos and Tettles. This is for Raid specifically, only DPS. We have Havoc DH alone in S in Raid. Now, keep in mind, mine was made like before the expansion. This one was released like very shortly before Raid came out. So this was with all of the nerfs involved are all there. I think I speak for everyone when I say that this was not true. Havoc DH is not an S tier raid class. Havoc DH, I would say, is an A tier, though. Like, I don't think it's that wrong. I don't think it's B. I don't think it's B at all. I think Havoc is exceptional. If you think about the bosses that are hard in this raid, and I think that does matter, right? Like, 5-minute single target sims are not a hard boss. There isn't a boss that's a 5-minute single target sim. The hard bosses are Dathia and Razageth. Kurog and Broodkeeper were initially hard, are now no longer hard with gear. You're going to wipe more to Dathia than those two bosses for sure. Havoc DH is excellent on Razageth, and it is excellent on Dathia. It is a solid A, for sure. Moving on. We looked at these. They ranked Warlocks here. Demo is an A. I think that's correct. Boomkin is an A. I also think that that's correct, or it's at least arguable, right? Like they... again, people are looking at their single target, but like they end up doing fine on bosses like Razageth with single target. There is important AoE on every hard fight in this raid, which they're excellent on. Pretty fucking solid there. Enhance an A? Absolutely. I think Enhance an A is definitely accurate. If not S, I think Enhance is absolutely fucking insane. Rogue, okay, so then he puts Outlaw an A, but not Sub or Assassination. I think all Rogue specs should be in the same tier. However, if anything... Assassination should be maybe lower, and it's just because they can't do as much, but it does do more single target than the other two, and it is like among the best execute in the entire game. So that's pretty good, just pretty much for rogues. In fact, are all rogues just kind of S tier? I mean, I still feel like people kind of forget that rogues can just not die to anything. It's actually OP. Like if you're trying to rate players in your guild, you cannot rate any DPS player against a rogue. You have to rate rogues against each other because they are just playing a different game. You just don't die to things that other classes die to. So far, this list is actually pretty accurate. In the B tier, they rank Fire, Arcane, and Frost. I think Frost is clearly below the other two. I think you could also make the argument that Arcane should be A. But now in Farm, Fire is like really competing with Arcane, especially on... I don't think Fire is going to end up beating Arcane on Razageth, just because Arcane has perfect cooldown timings for Razageth. But Fire's done really well on Kurog so far and just Kurog in general. I think Arcane probably moves up to S naturally. Shadow Priest is in B. That's probably accurate. I think Devastation Evoker goes down to C, in my opinion. I think BM Hunter goes up to A. Windwalker Monk is interesting. Windwalker Monk got the raid spot this tier because they're better than Brewmaster and Mistweaver for raid is like the main thing. They have like multiple required raid buffs. They do really well on all of the hard bosses. They're excellent for Dathia. They're pretty good for Razageth. I think monks are definitely overrated on Razageth just because of the touch of death thing. It's decent for single target, but also it does a ton of pad damage that doesn't matter, and people just for sure look at damage meters and nothing else. It's probably A tier. It's really versatile. I think Feral Druid is not B tier. It's certainly not the same level as Windwalker, probably a little lower. Unholy DK, probably a little higher. However, when this was made, they hadn't been buffed yet. I think before buffs, Unholy was actually a C tier class. Ellie Shaman in B is fine. Destro in B. Affliction's probably lower. Frost might actually be higher. Yeah, this is overall looking fine. They didn't put any classes in C, D, or F for DPS. So Survival, probably lower, although it's kind of fine. It does good single. Ret, maybe a little higher. Arms and Fury. Fury's definitely a little higher. Arms is kind of fine here. It's pretty specific as to what it's good at. And MM would be higher. Did they buff MM from this tier list, though? Because I remember the first time they did this tier list, this is actually not an updated version. MM was actually D. It was the only class in D. And then it was changed to be higher, so that was accounting for a buff. I just wonder if it was actually after this. I don't have an exact date. I think this was after buffs, though. I mean, MM is definitely a banger spec. All right, so overall, this is the Dratnos and Tettles ranking. I need to find a way of differentiating it on this paint diagram, so I'm going to get a picture of Dratnos' face. And I'm just going to put that on here. I'm going to get a picture of Dratnos' face and then put the word raid over it. All right, chat, where do you guys think Dratnos' raid tier list goes? Let's do the poll. The power of the people. Seeing B be the dominant thing. So it's average. It was average in accuracy. Moving on. Okay, Dratnos and Tettles, DPS Mythic Plus tier list. Let's all talk about what we think the S tier classes in Mythic Plus are right now. So it's probably Outlaw and Sub-Rogue. It is Havoc Demon Hunter. It is probably Windwalker. I think Windwalker might struggle living in the highest keys, but I mean, Windwalker definitely fucking cranks. Same thing with Enhance. So basically the only thing they're missing from S tier is Enhance, right? That's the only thing for DPS. Oh, MM is way higher than that. Is MM S tier though? Like if you're talking about classes that can't live high keys, like I feel like MM is going to be like the first one that just for sure cannot do that. Windwalker is in the current highest keys. That's not relevant. The actual high keys this patch have not even begun to be attempted yet because everyone is at least 10 eye levels lower than what you will be in this season. Yeah, I think MM will end up being A. Okay, so the S tier is actually pretty accurate. Every class... Is Demo S, though? Demo's really fucking good and is alive as fuck. I don't know if it's S. Okay, so they got the S, I think, like a little wrong. All right, let's look at the A classes. Ret Paladin, good. Feral Druid, good. Fury Warrior, good. Shadow Priest, good. Unholy? Okay, so Unholy is kind of a weird argument. I think in Algathar Academy, I think Unholy is goated. Like, it's turbo goated. You will actually, like, in MDI, Unholy will be played in Algathar Academy. You can just kill everything with Unholy, but I feel like overall, Unholy is definitely not A tier. And the only reason why is, yes, you can pull around them. Yes, you can play Giga Wound build and Disease build on, like, Tyran weeks. But I just feel like it just falls off too hard because their talent tree is just more fucked than other people's is. Like, if Unholy could have Gargoyle and the full AoE Bursting Wounds setup, I mean, they would just be the best class in the game. But, I mean, that's kind of a weird argument, right? Like, that's like saying, oh, well, if Unholy just had 6 more talent points, it would just be better. I mean, like, of course, so would every class, right? Do you like A tier for Shadow Priest? I think I do. Yeah. Especially in the future. But Frost Mage is probably lower than this. It's definitely lower than this. The question is any other mage tier in A? Do you think Arcane's A? If played around, yeah. I mean, I've seen Fired Up do Arcane. It definitely fucking slaps. It's just, I don't know if, like, conventionally that's true. And it has MDI potential. Yeah, okay, so Arcane probably moves to A. Frost probably down to B with Fire. Let's look at the other specs in B now. For Mythic Plus, Assassination, it got some really cool talents this expansion to have them be more viable in Mythic Plus with, like, the AoE bleeds and stuff. It's just never going to compete with the other two, right? Devastation Evoker has cool burst AoE. I think their survivability is going to be suspect in higher keys. They don't have sustained AoE. It's kind of all just burst, which like burst is definitely more important than sustained, but like it's just going to fall off on really long fortified packs compared to other classes. Their single target is just not excellent. I really think they need to relook at Devastation Evoker, man. I think this class needs a new mastery. I think this class is going to be so unbelievably dogshit in raid until they change their mastery. But what I think they'll end up doing instead is they'll probably just like over buff other things to like make up for it instead of identifying mastery as the issue. I don't know. Like we wanted to play a Devastation Evoker on Broodkeeper. I know this is a Mythic Plus tier list, but like I'm just kind of ranting about this right now. But like imagine the boss burn being 50-0 and bringing a class that outside of Dragon Rage is doing literally fucking tank damage. Like it's not tank damage, but like it's fucking bad. And like they can't change the mastery to the other way, because then imagine if like you did more damage later in the fight. That'd be turbo broken for raids, but imagine wanting to pop your cooldowns as mob packs are dying. Like what the fuck is that, you know? Like it's also just a super boring spec. I don't know. I think Devastation, it's crazy to me how good design-wise Preservation is. Like, arguably the best design class in the entire game. And Devastation is just like fucking like a kindergartner. BM is B. How do you guys feel about BM in Mythic Plus? I know that BM currently in Raid does like really, really good single target, but to take their cleave, they immediately become an average single target class. So I imagine if they're taking the cleave talents necessary to be relevant in Mythic Plus, they're just kind of losing all their value. And MM is just better. So, but it's B, but B is fine though, right? I don't know if BM is a C tier Mythic Plus class. Like it's probably fine to say it's B. Ellie Shaman being B is probably accurate. Sad too, because goddamn, it's fun. Affliction is weird. In Mass AoE, which is only like in one dungeon right now, Affliction can pop off, but I have seen multiple Warlocks go Affliction for the tree boss and unironically Hearth Out get summoned back to play a different spec for the rest of the dungeon. And to me, that just can't be B tier. That just can't. Frosty K is weird. So in Pugs, Frosty K probably sucks cock. Like just absolute, it sucks a huge hammer. If you were to play Frosty K and have your tank acknowledge that you're playing Frosty K and kind of chain packs together where you can have 100% uptime on breath, it will definitely do good, especially on fortified weeks. That being said, the likelihood of that happening is low. I think B is accurate with acknowledging that it has a higher ceiling than that. Moonkin is C. I have seen Moonkin doing absolutely unholy damage in dungeons. Not like unholy like the DK, like unholy like it should be against the law to do that little damage in dungeons. If in like higher keys, it will do better than that. In lower keys, it's actually so hard to look at. But this is kind of like high key tier list. Like that's who people care about this. Is it A? Is it A with actual pulls? Because their cooldowns can also hard carry a pack too. Dude, you guys think it's S? I think it's A, but like I don't know if it's S. Dude, you know what's funny as fuck too? The last time Moonkins got nerfed at all, I saw so many posts from Moonkins that were like, dude, this class is unplayable now. Like we will, like there's no way you're gonna play this class in Raid and Mythic Plus. And then they never got buffed or nerfed after that, and they're just fine at everything. And really good at some things. Just fucking typical Moonkin behavior. And then Arms Warrior, I have no idea. I haven't played with an Arms Warrior. I just assume that Fury's better, and that Arms suffers from if they want to do big AoE, they just do no boss damage, and therefore they're bad. I know how their talents work, and that's probably just what that is. So MM is way better than this, although MM was buffed since this tier list, so I think it's accurate that it's up there. And someone told me Survival's just like super weird in another talent tree fucked spec. Arms is actually pretty decent in keys. Okay. Overall, pretty accurate. Were there any big misses here? God, I wish I knew the date, because I know these were taken after MM was buffed on the Raid DPS tier list. I think MM got buffed maybe once after this. Maybe once. So I think MM and Boomkin didn't get changed at all. So Moonkin's a big miss. There's little small ones like Frost Mage being too high, Arcane being too low, but let's not focus too much on ones being down one tier list. Like, yeah, Enhance is up one, maybe Demo's down one slightly, but like, let's focus on like the big stuff. Did they really miss anywhere else? I don't think so. It's a pretty fucking... I think this tier list... So this is Dratty T, right? So let's get another Dratnos face. Well, let's get a different one. Here we go. Let's get a different one. It sounded like it's A. We'll do a quick poll, though. This is the Dratnos Mythic Plus tier list. Which, by the way, it's not a surprise that this tier list is more accurate than the Raid one. And it's just because, quite simply, people were able to do Mythic Plus on beta every weekend leading up to the expansion. And the Raid testing was months passed when it happened. And a lot of the really high level good information was not publicly streamed. So like the amount of information you have to make a Mythic Plus tier list before a raid as a content creator or before a season is massive, and you have almost no information from raid. You almost just have to just use your intuition. Oh, this is a solid A. Okay. I was expecting S actually. All right, let's go back and do a raid one real quick. Here's healer in raid from actually wait, did Dratty T do the raid healer tier list? Okay, yeah, it's Dratnos and Tettles. Okay. So they have Holy Paladin in A and Disc in A. Funny enough, the two classes that had to be picked up by literal dragons to do the last fight at all. But they were both in for both kills, right? So, although I think going back, I think if Shadow was like a little better this tier, if Shadow went live with the buffs that it got at the end of week 1, I think you could have played no Disc Priest and played a Shadow instead for Fort. That could have happened. It would have been close at least. I mean, this is definitely wrong as fuck, right? How do you want to look at this? Do you want to look at like their usefulness, or do you want to look at Warcraft Log's HPS rankings for just base Mythic? As opposed to DPS, looking at healer rankings in the raid is actually pretty accurate. Like you're just looking at every fight. Every fight has a little bit different kind of healing. And then let's just look at their overall HPS and then talk about their usefulness. So the top two classes, Preservation and Resto Druid, both crank healing right now. Preservation's probably, I don't know. Resto Druid has really, really strong burst healing cooldowns that are like, they're not like super spaced out. Like they have that all the time. But Preservation can do disc-like ramps with an insane duration on their spell. It's like TA echoes, and echo is like 20 seconds or something. Like it's absolutely insane how long their coverage can be. And their utility is fucking crazy. I feel like their utility was very whatever until Razageth, and then Razageth was designed to make Evoker utility insane. They could do that for the rest of the expansion, but like I doubt that Time Spiral and Rescue and like shields with Unravel and shit will be like as focused on in future raids. Like it definitely seemed like an intro Evoker last boss to kind of show off what it can do. Resto Druid has Roar, Ursul's Vortex, you know, really good movement. I mean, like, Resto Druid is just, like, fantastic. The rest of the classes are all really close together. Disc Priest a little low, but Disc Priest gets weighed down by bad people playing it, and also just with good ramp timings. I mean, Disc Priest is definitely not doing a ton of HPS right now, to be clear, but they still can cover parts of the fight that need burst healing still really well. So, like, I don't think their overall HPS ranking is indicative of their value. They also have Barrier. Not an insane Barrier rate either. So I think for sure, Resto and Preservation have to be S tier, right? Not to mention they're both like goated to Mythic Plus, even though this is a raid tier list. I think those two are just a very obvious S to me. Why was Resto Druid not played during the race? We played a little bit of Resto Druid. I think it was just because Evoker was better. Like Resto Druid and Evoker kind of just took the same raid spot. No shot Resto Druid is S tier. No, people are probably thinking too much about the race. Resto Druid's very, very fucking good. It's like really, really good. Evoker just had better utility for the last boss too. A tier, definitely. I don't think Disc is A. Holy Paladin's probably A. Like, I think it definitely matters that it's, like, the best Paladin buff, and it still brings Summer and Aura Mastery for some reason when other specs don't of that class. Actually, wait, question. If Resto Druid and Preservation Evoker are S tier, is any other healer A? Or is the next closest healer B? I would argue Holy Paladin's A. I think if you're arguing that Holy Paladin isn't A, you're like a box score watcher, but for WoW. You're like someone who looks at HPS and doesn't understand what classes do differently than one another. I would say Holy Paladin's definitely A. So I'd say correct tier list kinda is like Preservation Resto S, Holy Paladin A, and then are the rest of them just B tier? Like the rest of all healers? Is Resto Shaman, Mistweaver, Holy Priest, and Disc Priest all B? You think Shaman is D? I don't think Shaman is D. There's no way that's true. I think Shaman's B. This is a raid tier list. I think Shaman is excellent. Like, if you're looking at overall rankings right now in Mythic, look at the parses. Like, good players aren't playing Shaman. Like, good players have rolled to other healer specs in Mythic, and Shaman is still third. Not by a lot. Like, Holy Paladin has more value than Resto does. But pure throughput, they're that, and are they lacking utility? They have Windrush, they have Spirit Link, they have Onctotem, they have Ancestral Vigor. Do they do damage? No, they do worse damage than every healer spec around them. Like, that certainly matters. But are you saying that they're, like, noticeably worse than Mistweaver Monk or Disc Priest? I don't think so. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, either way, this was, you guys have to rank this tier list. So this tier list, as it is, we kind of discussed what we feel like it should be. This tier list has Holy Paladin and Disc Priest in A. It has Resto Druid and Preservation Evoker in B. It has, as well as Holy Priest and Mistweaver, and then Resto Shaman in C. So this is the raid healer tier list. I think this tier list is pretty wrong. This tier list is about as wrong as our healers were as what was good this raid. So can't even complain about it. What are we doing? This is a Dratty T. We need another picture. Let's do a picture of Tettles this time. Oh, this is... All right, the cowboy hat. We're doing the cowboy hat. All right, doing a vote. 83% says Swamp Ass. Goddamn, first one. And dude, I feel so bad for Tettles. Tettles is randomly, his picture gets selected for the Swamp Ass one. He's got a fucking goddamn cowboy hat on and everything. On to the next one. We're almost done with the Wowhead ones. So we did DPS Mythic Plus, DPS Raid, Healer Mythic Plus. This is Growl's Healer Mythic Plus tier list. Sorry, did I just look at a picture of Tettles in the bathtub? Jesus Christ. All right, here we go. Growl's tier list has Resto Druid and Preservation Evoker in S, has Holy Paladin in A, and then has every other healer in B. I'm not positive about differentiating the classes in B, but this seems insanely right. Is anything in the B tier supposed to be worse? Like, is anything in B tier actually C? I don't even know. I feel like people are just making shit up. Like, who would even have the knowledge to know this? Who's done a plus 20 key on every healer spec so far? The closest anyone got to doing that at all was in beta. I feel like Disc would struggle. Probably only Growl. I'm going to trust this. All right, let's rank it up. All right, with a resounding victory, we have Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster. With a couple of respectable S's, because I guess technically maybe he could have done a better job of differentiating this. If I know Growl, what I bet he did was he felt like there was probably a slight difference between, like, these two are obviously right, this is obviously right, but there was probably a, like, difference between a couple of these healer specs, but he didn't want to make any of those communities mad at him, so they just put them all in the same tier, which honestly is pretty respectable. Like, I know how that feels. So, all right, so this is a Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster. Can I look up Yummy TV on Google Images? There we go. That is a giant waffle cat. Okay, Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster, Mythic Plus, Healer. He kind of smurfed. He got it right. I will say, though, as opposed to the raid tier lists, it's not surprising that his is right, because he plays all of the healers in Mythic Plus. He played them all on beta in high keys, at least some more than others, obviously, but like he at least did his due diligence of trying to learn them all and play them all in high keys. And he was able to play a lot of beta before making this ranking. So like, okay, let's go next. Tanking in Raid by Dorky Boar. This is looking pretty accurate right off the bat. You could argue that Blood Decay is also S tier, though. Blood Decay could also be S tier for sure. And maybe Vengeance could be... Here's like my take. I think Prop Paladin should probably be A instead of Vengeance Demon Hunter, because I think Blood Decay does everything a Vengeance Demon Hunter does, just better. And like the reasons you would play Vengeance over Blood Decay, Warrior's better than that. So like the fact that you can only bring two and the combo kind of matters means that like maybe that's slightly wrong, but I think this is fine. Like Havoc and Windwalker influence this a lot. True. It's really hard to rank Havoc, Vengeance, Prot, Fury and Arms, Windwalker, and Brewmaster, because all of their values are in this like weird blender of other specs power level mattering for your spec, even on a different role. That is accurate. But Warrior wasn't necessarily really bad though, so. And DPS DK, I mean, every single class here had good. Like Ret's good, Havoc's good, DPS DK is good, and Fury Warrior is good. There's none of them that like really stand out. Maybe Havoc is better than all of them. Like Havoc is probably better than Windwalker, Feral, Ret, DPS DK, and DPS Warrior, but it's not by a lot for a few of them. So I think this is pretty good. Anyways, it's up to you guys. We're about to get into the spicy tier list, by the way. We're about to get into the 50 views on YouTube random tier list ranking from people. I am always a little scared of doing those though, because usually they're obviously like pretty wrong. I really don't like the idea of like 6,000 people just fucking dunking on this random guy for just like fucking making a video real quick. That's the only thing I don't like. Because like I always say not to do it, but someone will like go to this person's stream and be like, nice tier list ranking, idiot. And that like probably ruined that guy's day. All right, so now I gotta type in Dorky. Is Dorky gonna have a thing on here? Dorky. Now the dog comes up. It's this. Oh, here it is. There's Dorky's little cat. Looks like it's an S tier ranking. So currently 1 in every single one so far. All right, we don't have too many more. I think we might be doing a shout out. Might be doing a back-to-back tank ranking. All right, so this is the Dorky preseason tank mythic plus tier list. So he has Prot Warrior and Vengeance Demon Hunter in S, and he has Guardian, Prot, Blood Decay, and Brewmaster in no particular order in A. I think Demon Hunter is definitely not S. This was before the tank DR changes. I don't think that really matters. Like, did some tanks get affected slightly more than others? Sure. I don't think it was massive, though. I wonder if you would put DK in S tier instead of Vengeance. So this is a little wrong, I think. DK is S, and Bear plus Brew is B. I think that's probably right. That's probably right. Okay, it's up to you, chat. Dorky Mythic Plus Tank tier list. Vengeance DH is A when you know how to play it, but it's C when you don't know how to play it. Isn't that true with like every tank though? Isn't like every tank in every class can be multiple tiers of difference if you're good at it or not? The we're getting Bs. We're getting Bs here. Dude, the fourth picture when you search for Dorky is just a picture of Now with a link to his Twitter. All right, he gets a B. Oh, I squished his cat, kind of. Okay, now we have... Okay, so it's just the Icyveins pre-expansion tier list. Let's do Icyveins. We've done a lot of Wowheads. All right, so this is Icyveins. I don't know who did it. It sounds like Petco did it for all... Did it do it for all of them? Wait, but like, is it for Mythic Plus or Raid? Look at Icyveins knock it out of the park. Bro, the Icyveins one at the beginning of Shadowlands was fucking insane. It was unbelievably wrong. It could not have been more wrong. This is the worst one by far, if I remember. All right, whatever. So the 21st of November. This is what the Icyveins tier list looked like. Man, I don't know if it's for Raid or Mythic Plus, but if Petco did it, I guess it's only Mythic Plus. So what do you guys think of this here? Wrong on Prot Paladin. Wrong on Blood DK. I mean, it's fine. Oh, wait. So I guess it's like Prot Warrior's correct. Demon Hunter moves down 1. Blood DK moves up 1. Guardian moves down 1. Prot Paladin moves up 1. So he was right on Brewmaster and Prot Warrior. So, I mean, like, he was right on worst and best, and then in the middle, it got jumbled up a little bit. That's not that bad. It's only missing by 1. All right, poll. Seeing a lot of C's. Oh, dude, someone's in the C tier with mine. Let's go. Oh, wait, B is slightly winning. Wait a second. C and B are actually close. Brew is bad. Worse than that is that you don't get invited to pugs. I've seen people do higher keys on Brewmaster. I think Broodmaster is not great right now, but I think it is better than people think in Raid and Mythic Plus. I think it is definitely being shit on more than necessary. All right, looks like C is slightly ahead by like 10 votes with 5 seconds left. It is C just barely. Damn. All right, this is Icyveins, probably Mythic Plus. I don't have all the information on it. Here is Healers in Mythic Plus. So I think what we decided on before is that Healer Mythic Plus is Preservation Resto. Holy Paladin is A. And then everything else was B. This was pre-Disc Harsh Discipline. Okay. We don't need to do an in-game poll for this one. Just what are you guys thinking? This is Healer Mythic Plus tier list. Pretty accurate. Thinking A. Seeing a lot of A's, a lot of B's. A high B, low A. Let's just put it here. Makes it more symmetrical. All right. Now, I'm just going to go on YouTube. And then I'm just going to type... Why do I do that? Why do I Google YouTube just to click on it instead of just typing... youtube.com. Does anyone else do that? I don't know why I do that. Dragonflight tier list. So PvP tier list from Zaryu. That is a legendary clickbait face. I'll tell you what, guys. I don't have the heart to do this. I do not have the heart to turn on my OBS and start recording, go full screen, and do like that face and do this face. Here's why. Because here's how embarrassing it is, dude. Only Franck has to see it, but I don't even want him to see it. Like, the thought of someone watching a 2-minute long video that I sent them of me randomly posing in cringe-ass YouTube fucking things, I mean, I think I would instantly die if I did that. Just instantly die. Easiest and... Oh, we love this guy. Did he do any tier lists? Oh, here we go. Dragonflight Mythic Plus Healer tier list.
Hello, guys, and welcome to my new video, and this is a big one.
This is the door guy. Dude's got an insane door. All right, let's see what he ended at. Dude, I think Holy Paladin's probably a little better. Like, people are starting to do higher keys on Holy Paladin. You can heal it. They do decent damage. And Blessing of Summer is fucking insane. But you could argue this too. Because, like, Resto Druid and Preservation are really that good. So, yeah, you got to give this guy... I'm giving this guy, without even your all's answer, I think this is mostly right. And I'm giving him D, 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 D. Because even if it was maybe slightly worse than that, it's at least because of the door. Like, D for door. Wait, I squished it bad. DDD for door. Yeah, that's pretty good. We don't need to spend a lot of time on that. Riplock the God. November 2nd, 2022. What a fucking clickbait face. Dude, honestly, I wish I did more stuff like this just for, like, the comedy aspect of it. Wait, this is November 2nd, so this was an entire month. Okay, so many buffs happened from this. Was November 2nd before or after Enhanced getting nerfed by 25%?
Enjoy. I have seen that a lot of you guys...
Dude, I know this is annoying when people do this. I know it's annoying. When people tell you to like, subscribe, ring the bell, like, you know, all that shit. And then they show you how many people watch their video that aren't subbed. I know it's annoying, but I promise you it gets so many more subs when you do this. Didn't you do this? I do this like once every probably 20 videos. I'm like, you know what? I should do this because I don't like doing it because I think it's cringe. But I do it like very infrequently, probably twice a year. You wonder why people do it. I get like 500% more subs on those videos. So it's annoying, but it works. So that's why people do it. All right, skipping to the end. Ooh. Oh, this is spicy as fuck. Okay. Fire Mage, Unholy DKS, Frost DK, Shadow Priest, Feral, other pretty good stuff in A. Pretty Bong Cloud. This was pre-fire nerf. True. Yeah, it's fine. I don't want to dunk on this guy. Wait, Blasson did one? Blasson tier list.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Blaze here coming at you. Kind of group them up to help out your DPS, burn them all.
This was on October 20th, man. All right, let's see what he ended at. Did the tank meta in raids change since October 20th? Guardian Druid became way better because of a buff. I mean, Warrior was just as strong here as it was in the raid. It was actually stronger. I think Warrior got nerfed after this, very slightly. Doomed needs raid utility. It doesn't really need raid utility. It has fine raid utility. Warriors lost the party shield wall, I guess. I don't think he would have used that a lot. But he has Prot in B tier, DPS DK in A tier, and then Brewmaster and Vengeance in S. That is not good. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty wrong. But also, this is like a month before all the other ones, so I don't want to swamp ass him, you know. Oh, dude, that facial expression is just, that's more than enough. That facial expression is like, So I think we're pretty much good. Was there any other prominent tier list that was intended to be serious before the race came out? Dragonflight range DPS tier list. Oh, look at them. They're like two. Oh, that's cool. Is it father-son?
Well, it's actually...
I think it is father-son, right? Just two bros being bros? Brothers? I can't tell. They're homies, friends. Yeah, they could be a lot of things. I mean, it'd be cool, whatever, but like, just friends? Okay.
Friday, boys and gals. And you know what that means?
The guy on the right is the dad? No shot.
List Fridays! Raised in the raid.
What a fucking banger. What a banger opener.
And you know what that means? Dear List Fridays! Raised in the raid.
That is epic as fuck. It looks like a Raid Shadow Legends advertisement.
Raised in the raid.
Wait, are they about to do a Raid Shadow Legends advertisement?
We should rename the series Ranged in the Raid.
Yeah, Raised in the raid. Well,
Oh, they're not. They're not.
Asking for this since we've done a lot of like mythic.
Let's see.
Actually weird.
So this is range DPS tier list. Ooh. I don't know about BM and C, though. This is only 6 days old, too. And Arcane in C. MM's pretty fucking good. Ellie Shaman in A? Devastation Evoker in A? No shot. No way. This cannot be right. And especially if they're looking at like average rankings, right? Because like you could, I mean, looking at all bosses on any difficulty and at any percentile is not going to give you the full picture. You kind of want to segment it to certain bosses and be like, okay, this is single target. Okay, this is AoE, but cooldowns are like never like exactly lined up, right? Like there's no like perfect boss to see anything except for like single target bosses. But even then the kill times can be fucked. Like even if you do that though, let's say you look at heroic at like 50th percentile, you're going to see certain classes go up. If you go to 95th percentile, there are going to be certain classes go up and down. Yeah, that's definitely not right. All right. I'm pretty much good with this tier list. So final rankings, Growl's Mythic Plus Healer tier list was goated with Doorman's. Dorky's Raid Tanks was an S. Dratnos' Mythic Plus tier list. And who the fuck was this? Was this Icyveins? It was. Icyveins Healer is an A. Raid DPS is in B. Mythic Plus Tanks is in B. Mine is in C with Icyveins Tank Mythic Plus, and Dratnos and Tettle's Healer Raid is in Swamp Ass. So that is the tier list of all the tier lists.